Okay. Okay. So I think we can start now. So once again, good morning and good evening all. We are here today to discuss about this SAP Ariba demo. So in this session, we are going to discuss about the basics of the Ariba, and we will try to understand what is the SAP Ariba, whatever the solutions Ariba is offering. That's something we'll discuss. And even we'll try to understand about that Ariba solutions as well, like how we can map these Ariba solutions with business process. That's something also we'll try to understand. And apart from that, we'll discuss about that system architecture point of view, like what different kind of system architecture that generally you can see in real time. That's something also we'll try to understand. And apart from that, I'll give some high level overview about this Ariba implementation. That is very important, right? Because usually whenever you are going to work on the any Ariba implementation project, in that cases, that knowledge is really required, or even if you're going to appear in any interview, so in that cases as well, in most of the cases you will receive this kind of questions about Ariba implementation, right? So we'll give some overview about Ariba implementation also, and then we'll wrap up with our course curriculum, whatever topic we are going to discuss in day-to-day session. That's something also we'll discuss here. Okay, so start this topic, and let's see what the SAP Ariba. But just give me one moment, team. I'm really sorry, just 1 second. Sorry. Okay, so let's talk about this SAP Ariba. So as you know, like SAP Ariba is a cloud-based procurement solution. And with the help of that, as a customer, we can actually perform the procurement activities digitally. So digitally in the sense, we can say that online. So generally as a customer, if you see, so we are following the different kind of procurement process. And as part of the procurement process, we are basically purchasing the different kind of product in that includes materials and services as well, right? To maintain our business, right? So in that cases, like we are using some different kind of tools depending on this like landscape, what your customer currently having. So let's talk about this SAP only. So if you see your customer, they are having the SAP MM, or like they have the SAP SRM or S/4HANA. So even with the help of that as well, they can actually perform the procurement process. But in that cases, if you see, we are not having any such kind of capabilities. We can actually perform this procurement process online. Online means we can say digitally, right? And even in that cases, you can see we do have the list of the challenges as well, right? So generally in that cases, customer they are looking, like some kind of platform with the help of that, they can actually perform this all the procurement process digitally so that they can just interact with the supplier in real time, and whenever they are going to communicate any documents to the supplier, they can do digitally, right? So no need to send every time the separate email to supplier, right? And even from supplier point of view as well, if you see, so generally suppliers they are having more concern about their invoices and even the payment status, right? So those kind of thing also they can track, like with the help of that platform itself. So in that way, actually, Ariba came in the picture. And from definition point of view, we can say that Ariba is a cloud-based procurement solution. And with the help of that, we can actually perform the procurement process with the supplier. Okay. Just for the better understanding, we can take one simple example, and we can try to understand based on that. So let's assume we are the part of the one organization, and our responsibility is to take care about the purchasing process. Okay. Now let's assume you have received a kind of requirement from the business user to purchase some product, and that product we have never purchased from any of the supplier. So if you already have purchased in the past, that means you are already having the identified supplier, and in that cases you can simply place the order and you can initiate the purchasing process. But in some other cases, if you have never purchased that product from any of the supplier, so in that cases directly you cannot initiate the procurement process, right? So in that cases, what kind of processes we are going to follow? So in that cases, we have to actually we have to find out the list of the supplier. Okay. And in these cases, you can use any kind of mechanism. You can refer this, you can just try to find out supplier online, or you can do the referral as well, or even you can just try to find it offline. So whatever the strategy you would like to follow, you can follow. And as part of this, we have to find out list of the potential supplier. Okay. So once you will have the list of the potential supplier, and like supplier is part of the master data, which generally we have to reuse in many cases whenever we have to initiate the purchasing. So generally in that cases, we would like to keep a kind of record. That means we would like to create the vendor master in that cases. So that is the reason usually what we are doing. So whatever the potential supplier that you find out, we are just going to perform the supplier onboarding process with them. Okay. So based on your system compatibility, we have to actually create the vendor record, and whatever the information that something needed, you can capture those informations and you can create the vendor record in the system, right? Now let's assume as part of this, you have, find out, let's say 10 supplier, and you have created the 10 supplier record as well. But if you see, you are not going to make the purchase from all the 10 suppliers, so probably you will purchase from one supplier or two suppliers, something like that. Okay. Now the thing is that how we can filter out, how we can identify one or two supplier out of 10, what we can do in that cases. So usually in these cases, as a customer, we are following our favorite activities, that is the negotiation process. Okay. And as part of this, we are just sharing our requirement to the supplier. It's not about only the like cheaper price, even whatever the other things that we are expecting. So we have to share all the informations. And based on that, we have to receive the quotations from the supplier. Even you can do multiple round quotations as well. It's up to your choice, your requirement. And then based on that, you are going to evaluate the quotations and then you are going to select the particular supplier. Okay. So in this step, we are just going to finalize the supplier from which supplier we have to purchase the product. And once you will have the particular supplier, then after that, you are basically going to create one final agreement with the supplier. So final agreement in the sense you can say contract. So whatever things that you discussed with the supplier, you are just going to include all these informations in this contract, right? And you will take the signature as well, take the confirmation as well from the supplier, whatever we agreed earlier. So those kind of things we are going to do as part of the contract here. Okay. So once you complete till contracting process, then after that, we are basically going to start the procurement process. And as part of that, you are just going to place the order. That means you are going to create the purchase requisition. And then system will generate the purchase order. We have to send the PO to supplier. Then based on this PO purchase order, supplier is going to deliver the particular product. We have to receive the invoice and accordingly we have to make the payment, right? So this kind of process usually we are following. It's not about in Ariba. Even if you say in normal business process, we are following this process whenever we have to initiate any kind of new purchasing based on your internal requirement. Okay. So overall, if you see as part of these processes, we are following not only the procurement process, we are also following one more process that is called as the sourcing process here. Okay. And how we can that we can say that we are following the sourcing process because in this process, if you see from you can say supplier onboarding to the contracting process, you are not going to receive any kind of product from the supplier, right? And even in fact, you're not going to make any kind of payment as well to the supplier. So in this step, you are just going to finalize the supplier from which supplier you have to purchase the product, whatever the prices will be applicable. And if there is any kind of discount that supplier is going to provide, all those informations we are just going to confirm here. So in this process, we are just determining our supplier. And once our supplier will be determined, will be finalized, then after that, we are going to perform this procurement process here. Okay. So that is the reason this entire process is actually called as sourcing and procurement process. So if you are going to perform this sourcing and procurement process in Ariba as well, so in that cases, Ariba has given the solutions that is called as at Ariba source to pay process or Ariba source to pay solution. And that Ariba solutions are divided in two parts. One part is called as Ariba upstream. Second is part is called as the Ariba downstream. Okay. So this upstream is also called as that strategic sourcing as well. And if you see as part of this Ariba upstream, we do have these three module that is supplier, sourcing and contract. And then as part of this Ariba downstream, we do have this Ariba buying and invoicing solution. And this is also called as Ariba P2P solution as well. Okay. So if you have to map this Ariba solutions with the business process, how actually we can map this? So in these cases, if you see as part of this Ariba strategic sourcing, we do have the first solution that is the Ariba supplier solution. So SAP has given this Ariba supplier solutions to the customer, and with the help of that, as a customer, you can actually manage your supplier. So managing your supplier in the sense is not like that only creating the vendor record. If you can create the vendor record, you can perform this qualification process, you can identify the supplier as that preferred supplier process. Even if you would like to measure the performance of supplier, this kind of thing also we can do with the help of this supplier solution. So depending on your business process, whatever the process that you would like to follow to manage your supplier, that's something you can do that with the help of this Ariba supplier solution. Okay. Then we do have this Ariba sourcing module, and with the help of this sourcing, we can actually perform this negotiation process. So whatever the different kind of negotiation you would like to do. So usually if you see as a customer, we would like to perform the information negotiation. In some cases, we are doing the price negotiation. Not in some cases, you can say in most of the cases, we are doing price negotiation. And even in some certain cases, we are doing some kind of competitive negotiation as well. So what is the mean of this competitive negotiation? So sometimes when we are going to purchase some product, like let's say for example, I am the supplier, you are the customer, right? Let's assume you called me, you asked me like, hey Rohit, I'm looking for the Ariba training. What's your fee? I said, let's say $100, right? Then you will simply say, hey, it's too much here. I checked with the other institute, other trainer, and they are charging only 50. You are saying 100. That's too much. So in these cases, what you're trying to do, you are trying to do a kind of competitive negotiation because you shared one supplier price to other supplier and your intention was to create some kind of competition so that you may get some benefit. Now you are getting some benefit or not, it depends, but you try to do some kind of competitive negotiation or you can say online tenders. So this kind of negotiation also we are following sometimes as a customer, right? So for that, SAP has given this Ariba sourcing module, and with the help of this sourcing, we can perform this different kind of negotiation process. Then after that, we do have this Ariba contract module, and with the help of this Ariba contract module, you can actually create the contract with the supplier. And whatever the different kind of informations you would like to include as part of the contract, like you can say legal agreement. So legal agreement in the sense usually we have to prepare some term and condition document or you can say, like a NDA, right? Then we are going to send out to supplier for their review. We are going to take the approval internally and then we are going to take the sign off from supplier. Even we also have to do the signature. So that will come as part of this legal agreement. And even if you want to include operational informations like what kind of product you are going to purchase, what will be the prices, either supplier is going to offer some kind of discount or not. Those kind of information also you can actually include as part of this contract here. Okay. And then after that, we do have this Ariba downstream. And with the help of this Ariba downstream, we can actually perform this procurement process. And as part of the procurement process, we can actually create the requisition. Then we can manage the purchase order. We can do the receiving activity And after that, we can receive the invoices, we can make the payment. This kind of process we can perform with the help of this Ariba downstream here. So based on this understanding, we can say that whatever the solutions Ariba has given, that is Ariba source to pay solution, right? And with the help of this Ariba source to pay solutions as a customer, they can perform their sourcing and procurement process in the Ariba itself. Okay. Now, in next, we'll talk about this licensing part, and that is very helpful when we are going to interact with the client. And especially if your client they are having any other SAP solution, then in that cases definitely you are going to receive some list of the questions. We'll talk about that. But before that, is there any questions from anyone here?
So Rohit, are you going to cover in this class integration to S4HANA?
Yes, we'll discuss.
So actually my requirement is all the procurement process is done in S4HANA. Like they're
Mhm.
creating the PRs, POs, and everything is done in S4HANA.
Mhm.
And then that is integrated to Ariba. Only the supplier network is being used, to send the acknowledgements, ASNs, and the invoices through the supplier network, and everything will flow back to the S4HANA. And
Mhm.
so that's the integration gateway. I think that's what it is being used. Are you planning to cover both that integration between SAP and Ariba?
No, so process I may not be able to show you because to show the process we require the complete setup, right?
Correct.
And if you see from the client perspective, so as a client you do have the complete setup. But when it comes to the training part, right? So training part it will be different as part of the your real-time system. So as part of training, we are not having those kind of setup. Like I do have my S4 system, I do have my Ariba system as well. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But both are not integrated because when we are going to do the integration, we require some other licensing component. Even we required some a kind of team, right, to do all the integration setup. So that kind of things is not there. So whatever the process that is applicable that I'm going to cover with the help of the PPT presentation, I do have the presentation for that from process point of view. But yes, from configuration point of view, whatever the configurations we have to perform, let's say you get a chance to work on that integration project, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
as a Ariba consultant, you are responsible to take care about those configurations, which really you have to perform. Okay. So those kind of configurations I'll show you in the live system. Those and that thing we'll see. But from process point of view, we'll see only with the help of the presentation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Any further questions, team?
Rohit, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
I'm asking like, is it important to have a knowledge of other ICP systems like MM or HANA to learn the Ariba?
Okay. That's a good question. So actually, if you see, so it's not necessary you should have the knowledge about the SAP MM or S/4HANA. Okay. Because when we are going to work on this any Ariba project, right? So generally we are only responsible to take care about the SAP Ariba side, Ariba part. Okay. And from the ERP point of view, you will have the MM consultant who is going to take care about the SAP MM or S/4HANA part. So it's not a kind of prerequisite or mandatory thing like you should know, but of course, having the multi-skill knowledge is really helpful in the SAP industries, right? So if you know
Mhm.
about the SAP MM or S/4HANA, then definitely you can showcase like yes, you can take care about the Ariba part. I'll give my example. I'm basically expertise in the SAP MM S/4HANA. Okay. So whatever the project I'm handling, so mostly I'm taking care about MM part and Ariba part both. Or even in some cases, if I do have lots of like that activities from Ariba side, so we are involving SAP MM consultant. But at least in that case as well, I'm in the position to guide them like what actually they have to do as part of this integration part. So it's not necessarily, but yes, if you do have, that nice to have.
Okay, got Actually, my case is like right now working on Ariba, but on a total downstream side, on the supplier side.
Mm-hmm.
Work on the set up the connection between the supplier ERP and Ariba network,
Mm-hmm.
and do the catalog setup for supplier behalf, like supplier set put the catalog, and then it reach out to the Ariba buying an invoice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is the part what we do. So I'm not sure like what are the other activities has been done by the any person who is expert in downstream, specifically in buying an invoice.
Okay. Now, two things, Karanveer. So currently, if you see, you are not acting as a buyer. Okay, you are currently acting as a supplier,
Correct.
right? So let's say I'm the, so I'll give the scenario. Let's say I'm the customer, I'm the buyer, you are the supplier. Now you already available on this Ariba Network portal, right? And you do have the integration from Ariba Network portal to your SAP ERP system as well. Okay. So what basically in this case is it's happening like when we are going to raise any kind of purchase order from our side as a customer, you are going to receive the purchase order in your Ariba Network portal, right? And even since you do have the integration, so it's going to your ERP system as well, and it's generating a kind of sales order, something like that. Okay. So whatever the activities currently you are following, that is totally supplier side. But when it comes to the Ariba upstream, downstream, or as you mentioned, buying invoicing, that is totally different. In these cases, you are not going to use those kind of things. Of course, that will be helpful in case of as a supplier, but from customer point of view, it's totally different. And you are going to follow the buying process, not the selling process.
Got it. So what are the other activities that has been performed in Ariba buying an invoice
Yeah,
apart
those
from
we are going to discuss. So basically, we have to set up, like our system, and so that customer side as a buyer, you can smoothly raise a requisition, you can raise the purchase order. Then only it will get transmitted to the supplier, and for that we have to do a list of the setup, which we are going to discuss in the today session.
Okay. Can I ask Rohit one question, small
Yeah,
question?
yeah.
Okay. Uh, Actually, we have the existing vendors already in the SAP
Mm-hmm.
ERP system. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So those things we have to be migrate into the SAP HANA, SAP Ariba, SAP
Mm-hmm.
Ariba. So yesterday I am looking that your all the recording for the supplier request, creating supplier request. There is a, some of the fields only there. So they
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of fields are there. That one I didn't see that how to map it for exactly what is existing in the field in ECC system. So same thing has to be replicated. So that one information I didn't see that in your recording.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
there? Are you
Yeah,
going to tell that after that in the next
yeah.
sessions or somewhere?
Yes, yes. I got a question. So
Okay.
what about the SLP, like recordings you have seen that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is only applicable for the new supplier. So once your
Correct.
organization going to implement, right? After the
Mm-hmm.
implementation, if you have to create any kind of new supplier, then those processes will be applicable. But
If
if
I
you
want some new fields in that, suppose new fields we required, can we do that enhancement something?
yeah, yeah, we can do. I'll come to that.
So sim. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So that
Okay.
process is applicable only for the new suppliers which we are going to create. But let's
Mm.
assume you are already having the, let's say, SAP MM or S/4HANA, whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
your requirement is that why we have to keep the supplier in S4 system or SAP MM? Why not we can push to Ariba as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that
Mm-hmm.
we'll have the same supplier. So that kind of things also is possible, and for that we have to do a kind of supplier migration activity, which I'll explain in coming session during configuration. And even while migrating the informations, if you see from the SAP point of view, we do have a list of the different fields, right? And
Correct.
Ariba side, we do have the different kind of field. So it's not necessarily like all this SAP field will be available in the Ariba, because Ariba is a different tool, SAP is different tool. But yes,
Mm.
what informations Ariba is needed, or even if you want to add few more, so you can just go to Ariba and then you can add the list of the informations. And based that is possible, we can customize it, and accordingly we can migrate those suppliers in Ariba system. That's possible.
Okay. So second point is okay, you can migrate that all the existing vendors and everything. Existing POs also everything data we can update it into the SAP Ariba.
Yeah, PO is also possible. We can do PRPO as well, but by default, that options will not be there. But yes, if you are
Uh-huh.
having the requirement like you would like to migrate your open PRPO, that's something also we can do. That's also possible.
Okay. So and third one is just looking that in the purchase orders in the SAP, normally what we will do that indirect procurements, we will do that as a accounting assignment categories, right? There is a maybe projects or cost centers like that way, right? Pipelines and something. Those options also existed in the SAP Ariba, same thing or different
Same
flavor
thing.
will be there?
Same
Same
thing.
thing. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you, Rohit. That's all.
All right.
Okay.
Rohit, I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you will cover the integration gateway through PPTs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Will that knowledge be enough to handle the issues? Like, for example, right now, suppliers are over invoicing to the PO more than the PO quantity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are all being failed on the S4HANA side. But suppliers are not seeing that. So some of them in the history they're seeing the message, but still, as a consultant like me, if I have to go help the business, so I need to be able to see why it is failed, where it is failed. So I should be able to look at the integration gateway to see all the logs or whatnot, configuration and everything, right? So you said you were going. I understand there are two different systems in the training. It's difficult to show that and all that. But your PPT knowledge that you're going to teach us, would that be enough?
Okay. Let me just take this question in different way. I'll give some scenario as well. Okay. See, as part of the training, only thing I'm not going to explain I'm not going to show you, like let's say you created the PO in your S4 system, SAP system, and then the PO will flow to the Ariba. So how it's going to flow, that's something flow will not be able to see that. Okay, that is a kind of process knowledge. So, but process knowledge I'll give you from with the help of PPT, so you will have the look and feel. But when it comes to the error handling, so as the Ariba consultant, you should know like whatever the integration touch point we have to check, right? And even in your cases, if you talk about especially, so Ariba is just a kind of, you can say, pass on, because all these source document will be there
Correct.
in the SAP system itself, and yes, you are communicating to Ariba. That's it. Okay. So you should have the knowledge about this, all the integration touch point, and those knowledge will come as part of the system setup itself. So when you know about the system setup, like let's say supplier is sending some kind of over invoices, right, and it's getting filled in the SAP. So what you can do? So definitely you will think like why it's failing again and again, and why system allowing to supplier to submit invoice over invoices. Why not we can restrict them? We can give some kind of tolerances like 1%, 2%, which we do have in SAP. So then going forward, system itself will not allow supplier, and definitely our invoices will not fail. So then in that cases, your configuration knowledge will come in the picture. So that kind of things we are going to do that. But one more thing, Chandra, I would like to confirm you. Seems your requirement is not about this Ariba upstream and downstream.
Correct.
Okay. Because if you see, even I'm going to cover later point of time, but let me cover now itself. So if you see from the Ariba solution point of view, Ariba has given the two different kind of solution. One is called as a direct, or let's talk from customer point of view. Usually we are purchasing two different kind of product. One is called as that direct material purchasing, and second is called as that indirect material purchasing. Okay. So what is the direct material and what is the indirect material? So direct material in the sense, whatever the purchasing we are doing for stockable item, let's say raw materials, different kind of colorants, some spare parts, right? So we are purchasing, we are keeping the inventory, and in that cases, we are also monitoring the inventory as well. So whenever we required, we'll do the goods issue, we'll do the goods transfer, we'll check the stock as well. All these things we are doing. So whatever the solutions we discussed earlier as part of the Ariba upstream downstream, for that in that you cannot perform your direct material purchasing. And in that cases, you have to go with the either Ariba supply chain collaboration or commerce automation. Okay. So in your cases, I believe you do have the Ariba SCC PO collaboration feature. And as part of this feature, what will happen? All these source documents will be your in SAP ERP system itself. Like when you create the PO with the reference of PR, so the PO will communicate to Ariba, right? Then supplier is
Correct.
going to just create the order confirmation advance ship notice step by step. Then the order confirmation advance ship notice will get updated in your SAP PO in SAP ERP system. Then you are going to perform the receiving activity, goods received, and then goods received status will flow to a supplier. They will say like, okay, now this purchase order has been received, right? Then they are going to send you the invoices from Ariba. It will come to your SAP, and in SAP also the invoice will automatically get generated. And then you are going to send out the invoice status to supplier, and you are going to make the payment. Then the payment information will go to supplier. So in these cases, if you see, so in this process, this Ariba upstream downstream process is not coming there. Okay. So in that cases, you have the solution that is a Ariba supply chain collaboration. Okay. So we do Ariba supply chain collaboration as well, but right now the main challenge is that about the system availability. So we are not having any such kind of system. So system, I think will not be able to do that any live training for Ariba SCC because of system unavailability. But yes, I do have some previous recording. You can just check with the Sai sir, and he will assist you. You can basically refer the recordings which we can provide to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Now, in the next, I suppose to discuss about this from system landscape point of view. So generally, like as a customer, so now we understood like, okay, Ariba is offering this Ariba upstream, downstream. Okay. Now, let's say as a customer, you are using your SAP system, like SAP or you can consider S4HANA as well, or whatever. So it's not like that as a customer, you would like to implement the complete Ariba upstream, downstream. So in some cases, if you required, you want to go with complete Ariba upstream, downstream, that's something you can purchase the subscription, you can use that. Otherwise, in some cases, not in some cases, I would say in most of the cases, customers, they are not preferring to go with the entire Ariba upstream and downstream both. Because even if you talk about from licensing point of view, so licensing cost also goes, like you can say up to CR itself. So that is the reason customer, they are not like willing to take this entire subscription. They would like to purchase only those subscriptions wherever they are having some challenges. Okay. So in that cases, if you see some customer, they will say like, okay, whenever we are doing the sourcing processes in our SAP ERP system, we are having a list of the challenges. So I think it's better we can go with Ariba upstream. Okay. Some customer, they will say like, okay, we are fine with the sourcing. We're not spending much time on the sourcing process. I think we have to go with the Ariba downstream because whatever the process we do have in our SAP ERP, that is not up to the mark, and even we can't do this digitally. So let's go with Ariba downstream. Okay. Then same way, if you go with some other customer, so other customer, they will say, no, 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 we don't want to go with the entire upstream or entire Ariba downstream. We want to only go with this Ariba sourcing and contract. That's it. Okay. So that means I mean to say that as a customer, you would like to choose your own flavor which you want. So that is the reason SAP has also given this kind of flexibility to the customer. So whatever you would like to choose, we can choose. Of course, they have given some package. It's not like that you can choose only a small and single pieces. You have to go with the package. They have given some kind of package, and you can choose any of the package based on your feasibility, whatever you would like to purchase. So that is the reason in some certain cases, you will see some customer, they may have Ariba upstream, right? And even in some certain cases, you may see some customer, they may have the Ariba downstream. Or even in few cases, you may see some customer, they may have only this Ariba supplier and sourcing, or only sourcing and contract module. Or with some customer, you will see your customer, they will have the Ariba upstream and downstream both. Okay. So overall, in these cases, you may get a chance to, like implement like any of this Ariba module, or even you may get a chance to implement entire Ariba module, entire integration suite. Integration suite means including Ariba upstream and downstream. That is called as an integration suite. Okay. Now, one more thing I would like to highlight that is very important to. Please go on mute when you're talking. Okay. So one more thing I would like to highlight here that is very important. So when you come talk about this Ariba upstream, because one common challenge is which we have seen that even early yesterday, today only I would say like we have done one go live. That's the reason yesterday we rescheduled this call because I was doing some cutover activity and we faced some challenges. So, so what customer they are saying, like when you talk about this licensing point of view, licensing in the sense I'm talking about user ID creation. So customer they will say like, hey, we do have the list of the 50 users. Please give this Ariba access to all the 50 users, right? And they, in some cases they will say like, okay, we do have the around 30 users. Please give the access to all 30 users. Or even in some cases they are going to create every user ID which they do have in the backend system in the Ariba itself. So if they would like to create, they can create, but we have to clarify to customer, this Ariba upstream is mainly licensing will happen based on the user-based license. This is applicable based on the user-based license. So that means if you are going to create only 5 users, if you are going to give the access for the 5 users, then accordingly you have to pay the licensing cost. If you are going to create these 50 users, accordingly you have to pay the licensing cost. Or let's say you are going to create these 500 users, then accordingly you are going to pay the licensing cost. So this is very important and we have to communicate to customer as well. So it's not like that they can onboard every Tom, Dick and Harry on this Ariba solution. Never. We have to clarify them. If you are going to increase this user license here, so definitely in the next invoice, SAP will automatically that charge for the additional user as well. So they have to make sure they have to define the list of users, how many users they would like to give this Ariba license. So, but this is applicable only for this Ariba upstream, not in the Ariba downstream. But when it comes to the Ariba downstream, so Ariba downstream is happening based on this your volume basis license. Volume basis means you can say overall amount. That means how many purchase order you created, how many invoices you have done, right? Accordingly, you are basically going to pay some kind of licensing fee to the SAP. Okay. So in case of downstream, things are a little bit simple, but yeah, in case of the Ariba upstream, you can say that it's very critical. That is the reason as a Ariba professional, whenever we are working in any support or implementation project, so we have to make sure that we have to keep tight control on this user ID activity. Otherwise, definitely it's going to be a kind of loss to the client. Okay. So I hope now you understood about this Ariba overall solutions and you understood about some system architecture, right? Now let's talk about some Ariba implementation. Okay, before that, any questions is there from anyone?
No, the license upstream is depending on the suppliers also?
No, no, depending on this
No,
user
buyers,
buyers.
buyers, right? Buyer side.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now let's talk about this Ariba implementation and this implementation process applicable in all the Ariba solutions. It's not like that only for Ariba upstream downstream. That is also applicable for Ariba SCC or commerce automation as well. Okay. So whenever we are going to work on this any Ariba implementation project, so generally Ariba implementation is following this SAP Activate methodology. And as part of this SAP Activate methodology, we do have these 4 phases. One is the prepare, second is the explore, third is the realize, and fourth one is the deploy. Okay. So usually we have to start our activity with the help of the prepare phase. So in the prepare phase, we have to work on some documentation activity, like we can prepare the kickoff documents. So we have prepared the project scope documents, right? And even we have prepared all the team member informations as well. So a list of documents we have to basically prepare as part of prepare phase. And we are not spending much time on the prepare phase. It may goes 1 week or max 2 weeks, depending on the solution in scope, right? And once you prepare this, once you complete this prepare phase, so we are going to schedule a kind of kickoff meetings, including clients and Ariba customer support as well. Ariba customer support in the sense from the Ariba company perspective. Okay. So usually from the as part of the Ariba implementation, Ariba customer support team, they are also supporting you during the implementation and that cost already included in the licensing fee. But now from last year, I can see there are some changes in this strategy as well because even what some project we have implemented. And since customer they have done lots of like that negotiation, that is the reason from cost saving point of view, SAP has declined their support. They said we are not going to support you, only will give hand over the product. Then you can work with the implementation partner team. Implementation partner team means any IT companies. So you can work with the implementation partner team, and they will take care about all the implementation activities. But in most of the cases, you will get this Ariba customer support team. So we have to involve them as well as part of the kickoff meeting. And then as a team lead, you are just going to drive these kickoff meetings, and you are going to just explain like about the overall implementation overview, how you are going to implement whatever timeline that you are going to follow, who will be the part of the team, and whatever solutions you are going to implement, what will be your assumptions, constant dependencies, some list of the informations we have to basically share during the kickoff meetings. So once your kickoff meeting will be completed, then after that, officially we have to move in the explore phase. And as part of this explore phase, we are just going to explore the client requirement. So in these cases, we have to sit with the client, and then we have to understand their as is process, how currently they are following. If you are already having the those knowledge, then you can escape. If not, then definitely we have to understand. And based on that, once you will have their as is process understanding, you have to move to the Ariba point of view. And from Ariba point of view, you have to demonstrate the Ariba solution. So depending on the solution in scope, you are going to run the process in Ariba as part of the best practice system only, best practice process, like just to show as a look and feel, and even to capture the requirement as well. We are showing them like you can see going further, you are going to create supplier in Ariba like this. You will have this kind of options, and even you are going to create this kind of negotiation process in Ariba. And parallelly, we also have to ask them like what kind of informations you are expecting to see in the Ariba. Do you have some requirement to do some kind of customization? Like that, we have to receive the requirement. So once you will have the requirement from Ariba point of view and their Agis process, then you have to analyze the overall requirement, and you have to check like how much things we can basically map as per the standard Ariba, and whatever the gap that we do have, which Ariba currently not supporting. So we have to identify that gap as well, and accordingly we have to prepare the business requirement design document. So once your business requirement design document will be ready, you are just going to hand over to the client. You have to take the signatures, sign off, and once they will confirm that, then after that, we are going to move to this realize phase. And as part of realize, you are going to perform all the system configurations or whatever the enhancement or customization you require that you are going to do. You are going to perform the testing. Then we have to give the training to user, right? And then we can check all these informations accordingly. We can plan for the deployment there. So this is the high level process we have to basically follow as part of this Ariba implementation. So based on this understanding, if you see, so as a Ariba consultant, usually what we are thinking, as a Ariba professional, we are thinking like, hey, my job is system designing. I should know configuration part. Business process is not my job, right? But that is not true. So why it's not true? Because whenever you are going to interact with the client, right? So in that cases, you always have to talk from the business point of view. You should not talk in the technical way because they will not be able to understand. Okay. So when you will able to talk in the business point of view, when you do have the knowledge about the business process, and even while requirement gathering, customer they may give you different kind of scenario as well. They will say like, hey, we are following this kind of process in our backend system, and we are having some challenges. So can you please explain, or can you please show us in Ariba point of view how this thing is going to simplify, and how we are going to follow this kind of process? So to address those questions, definitely you should know the business process, because for every topic you can't say, let me check, we'll come back to you. Right. So definitely you have to address those kind of questions. You have to explain them. Then only they will be comfortable and they will give the proper requirement. And once you are having that business process knowledge, then basically you are going to work on the configuration part. That is our core skill. So in this way, you can say that, like this configuration part is secondary, business process part is primary, but we should know both. That is very important. So that is the reason if you see from this course curriculum point of view as well, let me just show you. Give me just one moment. Okay. So that is the reason we are going to take care this thing as well as part of this course. So this course duration is of 40 hours. It goes between 35 to 40, right? And we are having the session Monday to Friday, 1 hour. So if you are going to do the weekdays batch, then we'll have the 1 hour session Monday to Friday. Otherwise, if you are going to have the weekend batch, then 2 hours each and every weekends, right? And the timing we are yet to finalize, but we are planning to start one weekend batch and one new batch in evening 10 p.m. IST as well from tomorrow onwards, right? So in this case as well, we are going to take care the same thing which we discussed as part of the implementation. So first we are going to attack on this business process part, because even though our core skills should be the configuration, but before going to talk about designing part, if you should know like how the process is working, you don't know like that how we have to use this mouse, how to use this laptop, and you are just going to repair the laptop or open the laptop accessories, definitely you don't be understand like what is this, right? So that is the reason we are going to discuss the first thing, that is business process part. And even in that cases, we are going to start from the scratch. I do understand someone of you already working in the Ariba, you know something about this, right? And in that cases, we are requesting everyone to just give some 2 to 3 days so that other team member, they will also come on the same, like a bucket. So we will talk about the basics again, even though today we discuss basic as well, but in next session, we are going to talk about some like a deep level basics, right? And then after that, we are going to talk about the business process point of view. And business process point of view, we are not going to talk about as a end user. End user means, let's say, as a end user, if you have to create the requisition, you are just going to open the particular form, you will fill out the information, submit, that's it. That's a kind of, you can say, quick job. But as a consultant, when you are going to fill out, so you should know what are the informations we have to fill out, why we have to fill out, and what are the functionality of those information. Then only you will able to understand about the process, right? So we'll talk about from that perspective. So we'll talk about the Ariba supplier solutions. We will talk about the sourcing solution. And even as part of sourcing, we'll talk about the guided sourcing as well. That is the latest feature SAP has given, right? Then even we'll give you some light from the supplier perspective. So we are not going to do anything from supplier's point of view. And even as part of the implementation, we are only going to support our customer, not the supplier, because from supplier point of view, you will have the Ariba support team. They will take care about the supplier part. But still, we should know about the supplier part as well. So we'll give you some light about the supplier part. Then we'll talk about the contracting module. After that, we are going to talk about this Ariba downstream, that is the procurement process. We'll talk about the guided buying as well. So overall, if you see up to section 7, we are just going to spend the time to understand the system, how system is functioning. Okay. And once we'll have this process knowledge, then we will move to the designing part. And as part of designing, we'll talk about the CIG integration, the same thing we discussed earlier, right? So we'll try to understand some process flow with the help of the PPT. Then based on that, we will see in the system what configurations we have to perform. Let's say you are having the backend SAP system and you want to integrate master data from backend SAP system to Ariba. So to integrate the master data, what configurations we have to perform and where we have to perform. So those configurations we will see live in the system. Okay. Then same way we'll talk about other configurations. So we'll talk about the template configurations. This is mainly for the upstream. We'll talk about the approval configuration. And we'll talk about the SM administration. Here we can see we do have the supplier migration DRF out process, which we discussed earlier, that we are going to discuss here itself. And then we are going to talk about other setup about the master data setup, user setup, catalog setup. So I think Karanveer asked about the supplier point of view, but we are going to discuss from the customer point of view. As a customer, how we can set up the catalog in Ariba. So a list of the configurations we are going to discuss here, and then we'll talk about the reporting part as well. So then once you complete the section 10th, you can say that now you understood business process, you understood the configurations part as well, right? That means you are good to go ahead to work on the project. But still, in many cases, if you're going to switch your job when you will appear in interview, and let's say you are already having some experience and you are going to show like I'm working from in Ariba from last 4 years, 5 years, then they will expect some kind of implementation knowledge. And though I will discuss in day-to-day session here, but you will not be able to justify or express your knowledge from the implementation point of view because you have never worked on that implementation. So same thing we will take care in the last of this session as well. And here we'll talk about only this different type of project actually, but mainly focus on the implementation topic, like how implementation going on, what list of documents we have to prepare, how to prepare the business requirement design document, what is the cutover activity we have to do, and even we'll talk about how you have to express your knowledge as part of the implementation experience point of view. So all these topics we are basically going to discuss in day-to-day session, and this will be the overall, you can say, our roadmap, which we will discuss in a regular session. Now, before coming for any question, so like this will take go up to you can say 40 hours. So it's not the one day job. So definitely sometime you may feel some kind of disturbance because might be your requirement is to understand the configuration part immediately, not the business process part, right? But you have to basically give some time to us as well because if we'll follow the sequential process, then whatever topic we'll discuss, we will have the proper understanding. Otherwise, if you're going to go here and there, then definitely we'll always move here and there, here and there. Okay. All right, Tim. So that's it from my side. Over to you. Any questions from anyone?
So when you say the enablement of workbook, are you talking about the, I don't know about the workbook, just asking. So is that the supplier enablement that covers the supplier
No.
enablement also?
Supply enablement generally come as part of SCC only, but this is the kind of documents SAP has given, which we have to prepare. So when we are going to capture the requirement from client, right? So we have to capture some list of the master data requirement, and for that we have to use this enablement workbook documents.
So, okay. So that means, are you saying that vendor supplier enablement is covered or not covered?
I'll give you some light. It's not exactly because this is not the SSC course curriculum. This is the
Mhm.
Ariba upstream downstream course curriculum. But I'll give you some informations about supply enablement, how to do that.
Okay. And is this a cloud version you're going to cover in the training?
We do have only cloud solutions. But
Right, right. Okay. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
all right. Okay, Tim. So thanks for time. And as I mentioned, like we are having going to start this new session by next weekend as well. If you want to join the weekend batch, otherwise from tomorrow onwards we are going to start the evening batch 10 to 11 p.m. IST, 1 hour every day. If you would like to join, you can just talk to your Spock and accordingly you can do the needful. Thank you. Thanks for time.
Thank you. Thank you. Great.